Today, it's tuning day. The 911 GT3 RS. 600, 650, 700 performance points. Oh my goodness. Lots of fun. Let's get started. Hello everyone, Imposter here. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for tuning in. Today we're looking at the 911, the GT3 RS, which actually in stock form is a pretty darn good car. Gotta say the tune on this isn't too bad, but not quite where it should be, honestly. It's close, sort of, kind of, in a few ways. It's close. But I think there's ways we can make it a little better. This is a very capable car, and I think, you know, they did a pretty good job with the overall balance of the car, but there's still just a few things that I think the car fights you a little too hard on. So those are the things we're going to be focusing on today, all while looking at how to detune it down to 600 performance points, tune it up to 650, and then as well go all the way up to 700, because this thing will rip. And you can actually even go beyond 700, but as I did in my previous video with the GT350R, I didn't want to go too crazy with the power. I think, you know, if you push a car that far beyond its stock point, there's probably a better car you can be using for your races. So, teach their own, you know. But I'm going to show you what you can do with this one to at least have it fall in that 600 to 650 range. So, let's get started. I was testing this car on Trial Mountain, and I think, or not Trial Mountain, sorry, Deep Forest is what I meant to say. They're kind of similar-ish tracks, I suppose. But yeah, Deep Forest is another alternative that has a lot of elevation changes. I wanted a track that had a big straightaway so I could focus on braking zones and stuff like that on this car, so we could nail the balance and everything. And I think I did a pretty good job. And this was a fun track to do it on. As you can see, I've spent a little bit of time in this car on the right there. Whoops. A few different times I posted over various tunes, so I really wanted to nail this one. I spent a lot of time on this, so we'll see what you think here. Let me bring up all the angles here so you can keep up with my inputs. And, you know, just keep an eye on what I'm doing to keep it in check, because it is slightly needy when it comes down to input to stop it from stepping out on you too far. So straight line speed obviously is very good. Under braking, oh, I turned the ghost off. Under braking is very balanced. Mid turn is pretty nice as well, but second after the turn there, you can see, woo, gets very squirrely, and you really cannot recover with this thing in any sort of efficient manner without just completely losing time or hitting a wall or a teammate or a pack of bunnies or something like that. Ooh, so you can see there, got a little out of hand. I did want to tame that a bit. You know, obviously there's only so much you can do with where the engine is in this car. Having so much weight that far back is tougher compared to some other vehicles. That of, you know, mid-engine rear-wheel drive even would be something easier to tune. But I think what inspired me was, you know, I guess just pedigree behind this car. I do love the engine. The flat six in this thing is, I mean, amazing. So I really wanted it to work. I really just did not like the stock tune at all. So I had to put some love into it. And I honestly got frustrated with this thing. I wasn't getting it to work right. But I think I've finally gotten it dialed in. So yeah, the basics of the stock tune. It's really not too bad, as I mentioned, but a little too stiff in the back, I think. Differential's too tight, and it just needs a little bit of fine-tuning with the suspension, with springs and dampers and such. So let's take a look at that now here. 144, that's a pretty bad time considering my behavior on that. So we'll go down to 600 now. Keeping sports medium. I went to fully customized right away on this thing just because height adjustable, I couldn't find the right setup for the suspension there. So it helped to have toe adjustment and anti-roll bar adjustment in there as well. So just small things here. Slightly softer on compression expansion. Anti-roll bars a little bit softer in the rear. And then spring rates I think are slightly different from stock. So not a ton there. I think the balance was good enough to work with. I did of course change the differential to be much less sensitive so that we could actually at least get on the power a little bit early in the corners and not have to worry so much about counteracting a drift with steering. And so to get it to 600 performance points, detune the heck out of it, add a little bit of ballast. So 343 horsepower might not seem a lot, but it is still plenty. Alright, so 600. I like this performance point as far as power goes on this car. Even though it's much less than stock, it allows you to get on the power much earlier, midway and exiting turns. So that would help to improve lap times overall at this performance point level, just with cornering ability in the first place. It's got basically the same balance of braking that the stock car does, which is nice, but see through there, midway through the corner and out of the corner, very poised, very manageable. And even that little bit of oversteer there, I was able to basically give one flick kind of back into check. When I say back into check, I just mean back in line the way the car should be. Overall, the suspension doesn't feel too different as far as spring rates and stuff goes. You don't notice bumps a ton more than that of the stock car. It doesn't throw off the balance around corners if you ride curves or whatever it is. So not much to worry about there. The biggest thing is the power delivery for one, and then the rear differential delivering the power differently to the rear wheels. But overall, I think it just makes it much easier to drive. So you can see there, very smooth turn in. Got on the power earlier and was able to keep my foot down from getting on the power, basically. And through there, very little drama as far as getting about and having to manage weight transfer, all those things. So very capable little 600 tune for this one. Next up here, we're going to do 650. So took more performance out of this one, about 17 points more than stock. So first thing, we went to the soft sports tires. A little bit different on the suspension here. And I did this to kind of counteract a little bit more power going to the rear wheels, even though we have more grip. Wanted the car to squat a little bit more through turns to kind of push that weight farther down in the back to increase the grip. And that was minor. Didn't make a huge difference, but it was enough to warrant it in my mind. A little bit lower in the front for body height, same anti-roll bars, softer in the back for damping and compression, or compression and expansion. And then a little bit less sensitive on differential, just down to 788 on that one. And then less ballast, power restrictor at 95. You can play around with this. If you want to remove ballast and do more power restrictor, you can. I was just moving a little bit of weight around to see if it made a big difference. Didn't really. So personal preference, you can play around with that. But I think this, as far as tires and suspension and diff, are a nice place to start for this performance point level on this car. So let's go for a drive here. Turn all the assists off. Keep in mind as well, you can easily use traction control with these tunes if you'd really like. You know, I design it in my mind to not have to really work with anything other than ABS. In fact, I think, you know, things like counter steer assist and such might interfere with the tune a little bit, just because the way I have it set up is supposed to be more responsive with steering and all. So all those little factors play into it. So I would start with the least amount of assistance and go from there. Oops, I dove in that corner a little too hard. So again, through that turn, back end was being compliant, didn't fight me too much about stepping out. Same through there. That's a off-camber turn with elevation, so that's a tricky one. And even through there, kept my foot on it a little bit. No arguments from the rear axle. So that's very nice. All these little things add up to many tenths that add up to seconds off your lap time. So even though the front axle is lower, still very turnable, so you won't have any limitation with your tires rubbing on the wheels or anything. No need to worry about that there. I know it looks low overall when you're looking at it, just in like the escape through or whatever, but I haven't found any hindrance there. So that was good. About 4 seconds faster there overall. Gonna do another lap here so I can go faster. Dang it. The answer is no. I probably could have, but lost my focus there. And then finally, we have 700. Which, as I mentioned, is about as far as I would go with this. You can probably go to 720 with a few more little upgrades. But after this, it kind of gets a little squirrely. Like, beyond what it's worth in this car before going to something that's going to be a better fit for 750. So, racing hard tires. Then we have the same suspension, mostly the same. Slightly different height adjustments. I did soften up the anti-roll bar again just because we have more power. This is up to you. It doesn't maybe need to be that low, but this is just kind of for compliance to the turns. Mostly the same stuff through here. And slightly different on the differential as well here. Other than that, full control ECU, 100% output. There's a small ballast to this. I just did that to get it below 700. I think it was at like 701.8 or something like that before ballast, so that's why that's there. Racing air filter, semi-racing muffler, racing manifold, racing brakes with racing pads, and that's it. That's all it takes to get to 700 on this thing. Obviously tires do a lot, but this gives you full power and then some with more grip. So keep in mind, 700 performance points. This car takes some getting used to, so I might not nail this lap first try. Oof, as the tires have shown there. Despite being the grippiest with the racing hard, they are still quite finicky over elevation changes like that at slow speeds, so can't blame them there. But everywhere else, they really bring this thing alive. Obviously, you can shorten your braking zones, brake much later than usual. Through there, the car feels way more composed. There's absolutely no chance of it stepping out at that speed unless you were to accelerate. Obviously, that's all up to your right foot. But through here, you can see it's really not that hard to move briskly. I did not add any more aero to this. I think the stock aero is plenty sufficient, even up to 700, even with the speeds, the higher speeds you reach at 700 performance points. Didn't feel it necessary to add anything. It doesn't really feel unstable at high speeds any less than the stock tune did, so trying to be ginger through here because that's a weird off-camber turn. So I probably could have gone a little faster. I just didn't want to spin out for the sake of this lap. So yeah, as you can see, it's much speedier. I could probably go sub 130 if I really tried on this one, but just wanted to give you a quick overview of this one. I think 650 is probably the most comfy on this car, honestly. And again, you know, to each their own. I think that this car takes a lot of playing around with. And it might not be one where you can just jump in and get used to it. You know, you might have to spend some time learning it, which I did. Obviously, you saw all the laps that I did on it, but it might not be worth it to you. But I think once you tame this car, you start to see truly how much fun it is to drive. And I think it's also very rewarding once you get there and you can kind of tame it. So that's kind of what inspired me to focus on tunes for this one. So let me know what you think. I think they're good baselines. Obviously everyone's driving style is different, so maybe start with my tune and mess with it a little bit. Just play around with it, see what you like most, and comment down below what you think. Other than that, that's all I've got for you. Thank you very much for tuning in. See you next time.